Hello everyone, my name is Kip Schlegel. I'm a faculty member at Indiana University, and Judah asked me if I could say a few words, having been a colleague of Hal's since 1984, and it's a real pleasure to do so, and it's also very sad to not have him here to get this award and to hear all the wonderful things people have to say about him. I just thought I would share a couple of anecdotes and then just some personal thoughts in my relationship with Hal, which has been very close and long-standing. I was a student of Dick Sparks, and I don't know how many of you remember Dick. He's passed away in 1994, but Dick was at Cambridge, I believe, when Hal was doing some work in Great Britain, and then Dick came to Rutgers University, where I was a graduate student, and he was my mentor. When I finished was working on my dissertation, and I got the job offer at Indiana, I remember very distinctly walking into the elevator with Dick, and I told him excitedly that I had this job offer at Indiana, and he said, "Oh, that's where Hal Pepinsky is." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Do you know him?" I said, "No, I've never met Hal." He said, "Well, let me tell you something about Hal. You'll never meet a smarter man. You'll never meet a nicer man. And you'll never meet a man more full of shit than Hal." Hal knows the story. I've told it to him a bunch of times. And Dick got 2 out of the 3 right. The reality is that Hal is not full of shit and has made an incredible contribution to a lot of different dimensions. Another anecdote that I wanted to share with you was that we used to often go across the street to a place called Bears and have lunch and drink quite a bit. And this was, I can't even remember the year. It was right before the Democracy of Violence came out, and we were having this discussion that went quite lengthy, a couple of hours, about violence. And I don't even actually remember the discussion, but Hal at the end said, "You know, this is really good. I'm going to put it in my book." And I wanted to know what he was going to put in the book, because I didn't understand what we were talking about, but he did. And sure enough, the book comes out, and there is a diagram of something referred to as the Schlegel bat of violence. Now, I wasn't a tenured professor at that point, and so I was contemplating just how much damage this was going to cause me, and I did threaten to sue him. I wasn't quite sure what I could sue him for, but I was going to sue him, and I let him know that that this was something that, and I still don't understand it. If you've ever seen the Schlegel bat of violence, and you can figure it out, send me an email. The last anecdote I wanted to share was I wrote a book called Just Desserts for Corporate Criminals, and I worked a lot with Andrew von Hirsch on the issue of fairness and sanctioning and penalties, and I was fairly certain that Hal would be agreeable to my position, and I quickly found out that he was not. And so we spent a lot of time early on having long discussions about what to do with respect to white-collar crime. And I took the position that we needed to find fair ways and that we needed to punish white-collar offenders either equally as we were punishing street offenders, or we needed to punish street offenders equally as we were white-collar offenders, which means not at all. And that's when Hal started a lot of the peacemaking discussions, and I can remember having this discussion in the hallway with him, in which I said, "Hal, there is just absolutely no way on this planet that your idea of peacemaking will work. And nobody's going to eliminate prisons, nobody's going to eliminate punishment. To which his response was, well, I sort of see myself like Jesus. It took a few centuries, but people started to get the word. So Hal has taken the definition of the long-term perspective about as far as you can take it. And so in that respect, I'm optimistic for Hal. that may well happen. We won't live to see it, but perhaps. Just on a personal side, I think Hal's a dear friend of mine, and I love him dearly. And I've been trying to think a lot about what his contribution is, and you certainly know his contribution to the work that you all do, and I'm not a critical criminologist, but there's much I'm empathetic about with respect to the critical criminology perspective. You know his contributions of his work. For me personally, the contribution is much less sort of tangible. It's an aura about Hal that makes the biggest impression on me, and I think that it's certainly his passion and his creativity that are his hallmarks, and those are things that we often don't see in our fields, unfortunately. And it's something that rubs off in a way that just is not easily described. I've had countless discussions with Hal, countless agreements and disagreements with Hal, but we never had an argument. And that's, I think, a pretty remarkable testimony to Hal's ability to put up with a lot of bullshit in a pretty humorous way, because I contributed a lot to what I'm sure he viewed as bullshit. So I had the distinct pleasure of being chair at some point, and Hal actually, compared to other faculty, was a whole lot easier to get along with. But Hal is the reason why we have tenure, and there are not that many people you can say that about. And from my standpoint, the things that he's done in his career and the struggles that he has had as an academic are really quite remarkable. And to me, the concept of tenure has become so kind of meaningless that it's hard to really figure it out. But Hal represents to me why that's such an important idea, because you need the creativity, you need the people who are willing to take positions that are so substantially different for the university to survive. And IU is it's an unfortunate, it's a loss for him to retire. It was sad for us to see him go, but because he really was an inspiration to so many students and so many faculty members. And so Hal, if you can hear me, I love you dearly, as you know, and congratulations.